Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I'm your host for the day, Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in Northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And we are back again with another segment with Joshua Nybo. He's a writer. He's a veteran. He's working on starting a web series to go along with his articles and commentary. He's trying to bring conservatism and biblical principles back into the realm so we can fight the left properly and not like the left is trying to fight us. And that's one of the things that we were just talking about. We were just talking about why the left continues to lose and what it is that we should do. Should we fight them tooth and nail, or should we just let them implode and let the world see them for what they are? We were just talking about pre-World War II Germany. Let's get back to that.
All right. Yeah. So pre-World War II Germany, you had, as I was saying, a number of private political armies. Each party had its own associated militia. The Brown Shirts, famously for the Nazis. Antifa was for the communists. It was one of a number of groups for the commies. The Reichsbanner for the Social Democrats. I don't remember all of them by name, but every party had one. There was like 13 major parties. So you can imagine the chaos. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we're there yet, but that was basically setting up a situation in which there was democracy couldn't function. Representative government was being continuously short-circuited by the fact that anytime people tried to speak or have discourse in a civil way, one of the other party's thugs would come and cause trouble. And like I said, the major loser in all of this conflict in the 20s and early 30s was the average German shopkeeper, the average German worker, the average German everything, because it was on their property, it was in their streets, and sometimes spilling into their homes, into their churches, etc. Of this back and forth political fighting. And the reason why it's hard to remember some of the names of these political armies was because of exactly what I don't want to have happen here, which is that there's so many of them engaging in essentially the same thing. Even the good guys, even the people who aren't communists and Nazis, right? That they kind of blur together, and that's exactly what I don't want to have happen. That for them to blur together in context of Antifa versus basically everyone else, because Antifa views themselves as having a license to break the law and be violent because they view pretty much everyone that is not them as fascist, and that they paint everyone with the colors of the neo-Nazi movement, the alt-right, etc. And so, yeah, the only time I've ever seen them actually protesting or engaging with real Nazis, real fascists, as their name seems to imply they'd be all about, was Charlottesville. That was the one time in all of the violence we've seen since the election and during the election.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the mainstream media has a monopoly on the narrative. So of course these the Antifa folks are going to be upheld, they're going to be promoted, they're going to be supported, they're not going to be rebuked in any way. And any time that you see a conservative fart the wrong way, and just so you know, as a disclaimer, I do not call white supremacists and Nazis conservative. They're exactly the opposite. To me, Antifa and white supremacists battling it out just looks like a bunch of communists, a bunch of socialist communist people battling it out with each other. They're anything but right wing, if you were to ask me. But the mainstream media's monopoly on the narrative has made it so that we conservatives are always under a microscope. We are always under scrutiny. If a conservative farts the wrong way or breathes the wrong way, if Donald Trump has Russian dressing on his salad or says broski to one of his friends, he is colluding with Russia. How do we fight the narrative without, like you said, we shouldn't be punching back because we are under this microscope and we are basically in front of the world. Anytime something happens on this side, it's going to be exaggerated. It's going to be made into a bigger deal. It's going to be made to seem like a bigger endemic institutional problem than it actually is. So without fighting back physically, how else are we going to fight this? It seems like David and Goliath kind of a situation because, what are we going to do? How are we going to take the narrative back?
Well, I think it's important to remember that that Antifa has about as much power and influence as the National Socialist Movement, which is the neo-Nazis. that even though they're dramatic and they're on TV, it's like they're not at a point where we're an existential threat yet. So far, we're still at the level where the police and the army can't handle them. And I think that you're right. We're under the microscope, but the thing is that remember that we've also, like the conservatives, we've always claimed all along that we're the moral high ground, that we're the true Americans, that we're the real patriots, and that we're the common sense people who can balance a budget, who know basically what's best for America. That's been our line, and that the Democrats are a bunch of pie-in-the-sky idiots, so on and so forth. And I think that this is going with doing the right thing is going to, I mean, I don't think you should expect to be thanked for it in the sense that, yeah, it's going to be a crappy job being the one taking the hits. But I think that for the sake of America, that we claim to love first and foremost, maybe that's a hit I'm personally willing to take. And as far as how we're going to fight them, I think that the best way is to do what I was suggesting earlier, which was with cameras. That CNN might try to spin everything against them, but it's very hard to argue with video footage of someone assaulting someone who isn't fighting back with a bike lock or something like that. That's the kind of thing that we can use to help paint the picture of the real Antifa. That's something that we can use, especially during the election time. I mean, if a violence happens in a particular city and a Democrat's running for office, and they haven't distanced themselves from Antifa, and yet we have video footage of Antifa assaulting citizens in their jurisdiction. I mean, you can see where the attack ads write themselves. I mean, this is something you can nail them to the crossover again and again and again. And I think that will be a part of a strategy where, yes, it's involving a sacrifice for us, but, speaking to the conservatives, to those who are veterans in the audience, that's a sacrifice we've already said we would be willing to make. And this is now it's time to ante up that if more is asked, then more we will give for the sake of America, for the sake of this country, for the sake of not allowing ourselves to be drawn into a tit for tat.
And I think you're absolutely right about this. We are going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with Joshua Nybo. He's a commentator, he's a writer, he's a veteran. We'll be right back.
The Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177, or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road, and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanYourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.